Good morning, everybody. So today I want to kind of walk you through how to kind of start developing your design, and then the next video will be how to use this to create your armature. So for the La Catrina, you're going to be creating your design life size to what your drawing is. So here's my example of what I've been working on so far. So we're going to be doing the same process that I used when I started this. So when you start with the skeleton, you want to start kind of in a neutral pose. So I did one from the front and one from the side, so I could kind of start deciding what kind of clothing options I wanted. So for most people, you have your head size, and then you take the head size, and that's 1. You go 2, that's the breastbone. So 1, 2, 3 to the waist, where the hips start. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is at the base of the hips. 4, 5, mid-thigh, 6 at the knees, 7 right at the middle of the calves, and then 8 for down at the bottom. Now, depending on, how tall or short somebody is, there can be some variation, but for the most part, this is a pretty good frame, especially if you're doing a skeleton. So all I did was, I kind of started with a circle for the head and added a little jawbone, and then I've got my shoulders, so it was just basically a triangle first, and you can see on this one, it's really sketchy, right? So I added it in. I've got a circle for the hips, and I've just got like little circles for all the joints. The arms start at the shoulders, and the shoulder is like halfway in between the jawline and the breastbone. And then we've got the shoulders the arm goes from the shoulder to basically your waist. That's where your elbow hits. Like, check on your body and see, because it actually does fit right there. And then your forearm goes down to just basically at the base of your pelvis, and then your hands are actually almost exactly the same size as your face. So this is fairly accurate to most people. Like I said, there is some difference depending on how tall or short you are. But for the most part, this is the average height. So I did it from the front, and then I've also got I used the same measurements for the side. So I just kind of transferred this over, and then I gave just some basics. So like the head starts as kind of a circle again. Now, especially on a skull, so like this front part is a little bit flat, and then you can see there's this flatter area here, so it's almost like a triangle in this part right there. The neck is towards the back of the head. A lot of times when students start off, they try to put the neck right in the middle, but your neck is connected to the back of your head, not the center. Shoulders are kind of towards the back most of the time. So if you're looking at a female figure, which we are, so the La Catrina, then your chest bone, chest area, including the ribs, usually comes out a little bit. And then you have the hips again. And I just put the legs in a neutral pose because we're not really going to see the legs for the most part on this drawing. So I started off with a lighter color in my sketchbook, and I did this, and I made it exactly the same size that I'm planning on making my armature. What I did next, though, because I wanted to try some stuff out, and you can try this too if you have access to it, and if you just want to draw directly on top of this, you can. But I recommend using a different color. So I wanted to start kind of designing the dress. So I actually photocopied these so I could try out a couple different styles. So I started kind of fleshing out a little bit where I wanted the dress to be, so you can kind of see the dress follows along the hip and kind of flares out from there. I followed along the chest area and had a spot where the shoulders are gonna go. And then from this side, you can see I want the back to kind of flare out a little bit more. It's gonna go over, your behind, and it's a little bit flatter in the front. And then it's almost a triangle again up top here. So you could choose something like that. You could also go the other direction. If you want more of like the mermaid style of dress, you could have it where it comes around the hips and then comes in towards the knees. Now, if you were doing a person, you wouldn't really want your dress to come inside the knees because you wouldn't be able to fit your knees in there. But since we're doing a skeleton, and kind of the point of the skeleton is to show off this really thin skeletal figure, then you can kind of get away with having more of a sharp angle right here. And I chose to take, you know, keep the same neckline. Now for me, I started adding on top of that again, so I photocopied it again, but you don't have to do the photocopying. You could, you know, try just using a different color pen or just redrawing it, whatever you need to. But I started kind of fleshing out some details. Now the details you add here doesn't have to be exactly the same as what you're gonna end up with, because as you start working with the clay, some of the ideas that you have you might not be able to figure out how to do it, or it might be something where you're like, oh, that doesn't look the way I had it imagined in my head. So keep in mind that, you know, we can alter these as we go. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. Now for me personally, I kept my little kaleidoscope. I didn't want to have to draw the whole thing, so I just labeled it, but I added in my kaleidoscope cane that I had created earlier in one of the earlier videos, so I could detail my dress with that. So this is what I'm working on. All right, so that is kind of your basics. You start with your basics, and then you decide what style of dress you want, and then you start adding in more, you know, details of what you want. All right, thanks everybody.